Emily was describing. You know, Pinterest, we now have more than 100 million monthly active users. It's a great, huge community of people who are seeking the ideas that you guys really produce, right? As bloggers, they're looking for beauty ideas, they're looking for parenting ideas, they're looking for an amazing IKEA hack that maybe you've done and is on your blog. So how do you get that in front of them? How do you get that to be really engaging? That's what I'm going to be talking about today. So that's what I'm going to be talking through, but really, before I get started in all of that, I always do like to take a moment to go over some basics. And the reason for that is you guys are all probably some of the busiest people I'm likely to meet. Busier than Pinterest employees, busier than people who just have a regular day job. You know, some of you have a job in addition to blogging. Some of you guys are parents in addition to blogging. You guys are photographing, styling, creating content, writing content, posting content, distributing content. It's so much work that I think sometimes when you approach a new platform like Pinterest, you're thinking business first, which totally makes sense, but I like to go through the basics of what regular quote-unquote pinners are doing on the service, because understanding their mindset will help you understand what resonates with them most, right? So taking off the business hat for just a second and understanding what regular people do on the platform will help you understand the fundamentals of what and how to be more successful on Pinterest. So first things first, we describe ourselves as a visual bookmarking tool that helps people discover and save creative ideas. So the very fundamentals of saving are people can pin your content from your blog, from My Domestic Rebel, or from, you know, Marketing Yourself, all of those great websites, and then they can save those pins onto boards. And they can also discover your content through feeds. So search feeds on Pinterest, category feeds on Pinterest, and then anytime they come across your piece of content, whether it's a beauty tutorial that links back to your website, a beauty video that links back to your YouTube channel, a product that you've endorsed that links back to its product page, anytime they encounter it on Pinterest, it always links back to the site that it came from. So that is sort of like the viral nature of Pinterest, and also what we mean by saving, right? A pin is not just an image, it's not just a video, it's a live bookmark that goes back to where it came from. And these basic mechanics really inform all of the downstream value that we can be talking about. So that's pins and how you create them. At the board level, what you see is, first of all, boards represent topics and individual taste. You know, I actually took out the board titles for these three boards, but you can actually tell that they're all about different things, even though they're ostensibly all about women's fashion, right? The first one is clearly about street style, the second one is like a very high fashion, runway, glamorous, and the third one is purely about shoes. And you can know that immediately, even without any text or words. So if you're a shoe fanatic, you follow the third board. If you're not really into high fashion, you probably maybe just follow the first and the third. So it's really important to realize people are coming to Pinterest to follow interests first and personal taste, not necessarily social connections. You know, even though Pinterest is frequently described alongside services like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, we're fundamentally not a social networking service. You know, most people on Pinterest are following people they don't know in real life. They're looking for experts like you guys, content providers like you guys, curators like you guys, so that's great. So when you're creating your boards and thinking through your profile strategy, create boards around the topics and the areas that you want to be a leader in. And then moving on to discovery, you know, Pinterest helps with answering subjective questions. Again, even though we're frequently described in the same breath as social networking services, we frequently compare and contrast ourselves to a traditional search engine. You know, first thing that you can tell is obviously Pinterest is more visual, right? Compared to a Google search or something like that. Really what we're trying to do is to nudge people towards ideas they hadn't thought of. A traditional search engine is super great at answering questions with an objective answer. Like, how do I get to 452 Union Street? What's the weather going to be like in Brooklyn or in New York today? But there's a whole world of questions that really involve personal taste. You know, like, hey, I want to eat healthier. What's something that I can make for my family of picky eaters? Or, you know, I'm getting married. What should my wedding look like? those are all things where there's no right or wrong answer, right? You're looking for ideas that resonate with you, and Pinterest, we hope, is becoming more and more the platform that provides those answers. And you guys want to be the content creators to get your ideas and your answers in front of the people who are looking for them. You know, Pinterest is averaging about 50 million search queries a day. I was chatting with these lovely ladies, and Jessica, and stuff like that around how they were getting sent pins all the time from friends who were planning their weddings, and it's like the go-to place to find decor ideas for an Alice in Wonderland party. Styling a party is not an objective thing, right? Pinterest can be the place where you can find a bunch of creative ideas. So to sort of sum up, people save, discover, and then ultimately go do those things. When people find pins and save them onto their boards, it's not an upvote, it's not just a like. A repin is such a powerful action because somebody is saying they like that piece of content and they like that idea so much that they actually want to refer back to it later. They're not just looking for the image, they're not just looking again for that visual, they want to save the link behind that as well to go out and do it in the future. If it's a product, they might want to buy it later. You know, comparing and contrasting prices. If it's a tutorial, they might want to actually go do that beauty tutorial or that DIY tutorial later in their real life. So that's sort of what we mean by those 3 keywords. And as I mentioned, that's why the repin is super, super powerful. And that's why pins have a really, really long lifespan. You know, this single pin, you know, beautiful hairstyle, it can show up on somebody's hairstyle board, it can show up on somebody's wedding style board, it can show up on somebody's, bridesmaid style board, and every single time it's repinned, not only is that individual person saying, I like this idea so much, but every time it's repinned, it's actually being re-exposed to a whole new group of people simultaneously. So a repin is a really powerful action, we believe, much stronger than a like. And you should also remember that your content lives for a really long time on Pinterest. You know, the average tweet is gone in a flash. If somebody's missed it, they've missed it. Same with Instagram, right? It's very timely, it's very real-time feed. But on Pinterest, your hairstyle pin could live on somebody's board essentially forever, and they could keep referencing it on and on and on, and it can keep being resurfaced in search, and every time it's repinned, it's resurfaced again. So just remember that content is really evergreen on Pinterest, and that's why your content can have engagement and have life months, sometimes even years down the road, and drive traffic back to your blog or to your website. And sort of in that vein, people are searching for ideas on Pinterest. It's a very intentional place. Yes, people go to browse and look at pretty things on Pinterest for a while, but what we've really found is we did a study of active pinners versus people not on Pinterest, and what we found is that across the board, people who use Pinterest are so much more likely to be going down a major life moment or planning for a life moment. And a lot of you probably are content providers in these veins, right? 9 times more likely planning on having a baby in the next 6 months is the active pinner compared to a non-pinner. They're planning vacations, they're planning weddings, they're decorating their home or buying a home. So they're looking for ideas in all these aspects of their life. They're not just casually browsing. And we've grown quite a bit, which is exciting. I mentioned that we have more than 100 million monthly active users. We now have more than 50 billion pins and more than 1 billion boards, which sounds intimidating, right? How do you stand out amongst all of that content? And I'll definitely be going into that later. But I did think I would start with this, which is hopefully heartening news. We have more than 50 billion pins, and actually 2/3 of it comes from what I like to call official content creators, brands and businesses and bloggers like yourselves. Again, contrasting against something like a Twitter or Instagram where people are uploading a picture of what they're eating at brunch or talking about what they're doing in the moment, Pinterest is a place where people are looking for ideas from official sources. This is a platform where all of your content is super welcome. This is where brand content is welcome. This is where products are welcome in a really organic way because that's what people are looking for. Most people are not recipe developers themselves, or most people don't consider themselves, really great event stylists. they're looking for professional quality ideas from folks like yourselves, to the tune of about, tens of billions of pins. And we took a look at a couple major trends that we were seeing to hopefully help you guys think about your content, what can do well on Pinterest. So in the food world, again, we have about 52 million people who have pinned about food. It is a huge community of food lovers. I know some of you guys use Pinterest yourselves. You guys know that there's constantly recipes. Recipes do really well on Pinterest. And what we see is the major trending content is around flavor, ease, and health. And what that really means is sort of millennials these days, 18 to 34 years old, they're really interested in infusing like bold flavors into all sorts of different kinds of foods. So these are like the top flavor searches that we saw. Flavored water, flavored vodka, flavored butter, flavored popcorn, flavored cupcakes. I mean, it is like a little bit out of control, but pretty amazing to see that so consistently across the board, both for like, drinks and snacks. People are looking for flavor. And so these are top food pins by millennials that, again, just echo like this growing trend that we see in food culture and food lovers for really diving into bolder, more exciting, like less conventional flavors. So shrimp as an ingredient is like really, really popular. Any sort of like recipe that mixes sweet and salty in the same bite is really, really popular right now. Spicy stuff, the one in the middle, which sounds really exciting, is some grilled banana and ice cream dish. So these are the pins that are doing really well, hyper popular, and they all like echo this growing trend that we've seen in flavor. And then ease. This one's pretty simple. Again, people are just really busy these days, right? Millennials particularly, they're looking for easy, simple recipes, not just for dinner, but throughout their day. So we see simple breakfast, simple lunch, simple dinner to the tune of these types of numbers. It is a real growing trend. People are looking for one-pot meals, 30-minute dinners, easy, healthy breakfasts are all part of this growing trend that we see in the need for like convenience in addition to health, which is obviously the third trend. So you guys have probably noticed this yourselves if you're food bloggers or you're into food culture in general, but such a big shift towards like healthier and seasonal ingredients in food. Even for like a busy mom who's cooking for her family, she's thinking more about the ingredients, she's thinking more about shopping seasonally. There are so many of these infographics on Pinterest that are just doing amazingly well, get a ton of high engagement, because people are seeking this information. Like, when is broccoli actually in season? Am I buying something that's being shipped from across the country, or is it local? And so these are some of the top pins around fresh and healthy food. Again, you just see like the desire for how do I get the most out of local fresh ingredients right now? How can I save local fresh ingredients and preserve them for future meals? And it's really popular on Pinterest at the moment. In beauty, I know a lot of you are beauty bloggers, so taking a look at beauty trends, first of all, a huge number that I just learned when I got these data and insights back is that according to ComScore and the survey that they did, women on Pinterest are 28% more likely to be a beauty shopper and be really into beauty products than the average woman. So this is someone who's really into personal aesthetics and beauty and changing up their look. And of course, if you're good at math, about 270 million boards out of our 1 billion means that actually about 30% of all boards on Pinterest are beauty boards. It's a huge category on Pinterest. And the trends that we're seeing are around natural makeup, simpler and bolder nail art, and then salon-styled hair. So what that looks like, we found, was definitely over the past year, looking at content from 2014 to content that's more heavily engaged with in 2015, there's a big movement to sort of casual daily beauty looks versus like extremely glamorous. People are looking for more neutral color palettes, and they're natural sort of means two things. Not only natural aesthetics in terms of a neutral color palette, something that they can wear to work or something that they can wear to university class, but also something that has natural ingredients is increasingly important to beauty shoppers and beauty pinners. And a huge increase in activity related to ingredients specifically. People are just a lot more conscious of what they're wearing, what they're buying, what companies they're supporting. And then similarly to makeup, there's also just a natural or a growing trend towards natural hair products as well, and natural hair looks. I thought this would probably be interesting to you beauty bloggers. Makeup by parts, aka how to do your eyebrows, how to do highlight cheeks, very specific looks by parts of your face. These are stack ranked by order of most popular by volume of activity. So eyes is number one, it's the most popular, makeup by part on Pinterest, and then descending eyebrows, face, lips, and cheek. But people are really searching for this again on Pinterest. And then what we see in trends in nail art is similar to makeup, overall moving from a more like busy or hyper glamorous look to something a little bit simpler and bolder. So moving away from DIY designs like splatter nail art or marbled nail art to something just like with a bold color and perhaps some embellishment is the trend that we see. Those are the colors that are trending right now. Cherry, aqua, turquoise, cream, and blue nail colors. And then we definitely see increases in embellishments, so rhinestones and studded nails and stuff like that are definitely increasing. And then in hair, again, it's part of this overarching trend of moving from hyper-glamorous to something a little bit more natural. Going from 2014 to 2015, there's definitely been decreases in like hippie-inspired or boho braids to more just sleek, simpler looks that you might get like post-salon styling. And then again, huge increases in anything related to natural hair, talking about weaves, natural hair, wigs, and just more gravitation towards looks that sort of align and amplify somebody's natural texture, right? If you have curly hair, don't try processing it too much, don't try straightening it too much. Just find a style that works for you and that you can rock with curly hair. And then these, similar to the beauty categories that I mentioned, I figured would probably be interesting for the hair and beauty bloggers to know that these are the four major categories that you see in terms of activity for hair. So if you're thinking about creating more boards around hairstyles on your Pinterest profile, think through these, and if you can actually create 4 boards, one for each of these different categories. Or if, I didn't realize hair remedies were really popular on Pinterest, consider adding that as part of your content strategy. So with all of those sort of like macro trends and overall data, what I wanted to start diving into is like how to improve your Pinterest profile more specifically. And what that really comes down to is these 5 really basic things. First, putting yourself in the mindset of a pinner, and that's why I always go through those basics. Once you understand that people are coming to Pinterest to plan for their future, they're here to save really actionable ideas, it'll really help you think through what board should I create, what should I name them, what content is going to do really well on Pinterest. Second, mix up your content. Don't just pin purely your content 100% of the time. You guys are tastemakers, People are coming to Pinterest and want to follow you to also see what you're inspired by, right? For instance, if you're a beauty blogger, they don't just want to see your tutorials, although they certainly want that as well. They want to know, okay, what brands and what high fashion looks are you going to try to emulate? What products do you really like? To Emily's point, they want to get to know you as a real 3-dimensional person, right? So provide some of that additional what inspires you, which will in turn inspire your audience. Being search-friendly and descriptive, I'll go into this in a lot of detail, but it makes a huge difference in how your content and how you overall perform on Pinterest. Because a lot of people ask, just say it loud and clear, hashtags do not matter on Pinterest. If you write hashtag potato and you just write potato on any of the recipe, we don't treat either of those potatoes any differently. They're the same word. The The only way hashtags are really useful is if you're participating in a really specific campaign, right? Like, let's just say you do hashtag LBC 2015 NYC just to categorize all the pins that you put under that LBC campaign or contest. That's a great way to use a hashtag, but if you're using hashtags in front of all your keywords, you're not really doing yourself any favors. You may as well save yourself the time. Which relates to don't spread yourself too thin. Being regularly active on Pinterest is more important than having dozens of boards that you can't update regularly. So maybe think about cutting back a little bit to save yourself the energy. Focus on the 10, 15 boards that you know you can pin to regularly to keep them high in search result rankings, as opposed to leaving a lot of boards just high and dry because you can't possibly get to them. So, when you start creating your profile, or obviously many of you already have your profiles, here's sort of my tips on how you might audit that profile and go through with like a really critical eye. Like, how am I doing? Like, am I a B plus on Pinterest, or is there room for improvement here? So first, like I mentioned, think like a pinner. As you're creating boards, these are the questions that we sort of ask people to brainstorm with. What do you want to be a leader in? What are you known for? What do you want to be known for that maybe people don't realize you have really great content about? Like, for example, you actually have a ton of hair remedies content on your blog, but maybe you've never put that on Pinterest, or it's buried in this giant hair board that could be divided up into more areas that are more specific. And again, because Pinterest is such a destination for planning for major events like weddings, like home, parties, in addition to all the holidays, Christmas, Dia de los Muertos, whatever, are there holidays that you have content about that you could help people plan with? Showing inspirations I talked about, and then lastly, including business goals, actually. I mean, if you're launching a book, for example, pin about your book, create a board about your book. If it's a book about marketing yourself, maybe you include really great infographics on that board related to the topic that you're discussing, as well as pins of your actual product, right? A link where you can go order that book. It's totally welcome on Pinterest. If you're launching a new range of products, maybe you want to create a board around that collection, or incorporate those products into other boards that are relevant, like fashion or beauty or something. Like I mentioned, help with planning ideas, but make sure you do it soon enough, because Pinterest is so much about planning and people are forward-looking when they're looking for ideas. A great example is back to school. If you're creating your back to school board in August, you've already kind of missed the boat. We see trends in back to school pick up in like mid-summer. You want to create that board early enough and start putting the content in there, writing really great pin descriptions and a board title for that board well before September rolls around, because people are looking for those ideas in July and in August, so you want to be ready beforehand. Similarly, I know everybody hates it when like Halloween ends and we can all expect all the Christmas decorations to be up like tomorrow and just straight over, like skipping over Thanksgiving altogether. But we actually see that on Pinterest too. Like, trending searches for Christmas are already happening. It's just a bigger holiday in people's minds. People are planning for it more in terms of gift giving, as well as decor, as well as the meal. So you want to create your Christmas board, if you want to have one, soon enough. You want to create it now, if not even sooner, so you can ride that wave of interest. Be search friendly. This one's super important. Pinterest search results look at keywords first. So if you create a board called just hair, that's okay, but more people are searching for really, again, actionable ideas. Hair remedies, hair tutorials, haircut inspiration. Think about how you can title your board in a really, really great way where pinners are looking for ideas like that. The more keyword friendly that you can be, probably the better that your board will perform in overall Pinterest search results. So you want to not just title the board, but also use the board description area. So that's an example of Michelle Spam's board. Again, you don't have to kill yourself. She literally titled the board Beauty Tips and Tricks, and her board description is hair and beauty tips and tricks. That's all it takes, but it's really keyword friendly. And she's trying to make sure that her hair and beauty tips and tricks show up whenever people search for that incredibly popular search query. You also just want to make sure that you're being search friendly on your profile too. if a lot of your audience doesn't know you by your real first and last name and probably knows you by your blog name, consider putting your blog name in your Pinterest profile as opposed to just your first and last name. I'll get into all the keywords that you can put in your pin description a little bit later, so I'll leave that. So the last tip is, like I mentioned, being regular, being active, pin like a pro. You don't have to kill yourself and have 50 boards. It's much more important that you pin to your boards regularly, because after our search results look at keyword matching, we're also making sure that the boards that we put at the top of search results are really fresh, right? We don't want to recommend a beauty board that hasn't been updated in 2 months. We want to recommend a board that's been regularly updated. So if you keep to a smaller set and regularly update them, that's going to be a much better strategy than spreading yourself too thin. And then this is also similar to what Emily was discussing earlier. I think people really fixate on the number of followers that their profile has on any platform, not just Pinterest. It's just something that folks have been trained to do. But actually, what we've seen on Pinterest is that engagement on your content, essentially people repinning your stuff, liking your stuff, and then eventually clicking through and going back to your website, they're not strictly your followers. So don't overly obsess about your follower count. People on Pinterest can discover your content a multitude of ways. So first, of course, is just home feed. They follow you directly, they see what you've pinned, they engage with it right there from their home feed. But again, when somebody repins your stuff, that's shown to a whole new group of followers. So that's essentially your content gaining new audience just by being engaging. And then lastly, we see about 1/3 of engagement on your content comes from search results and category feeds. So again, don't just try to grow your own audience through your followers and thinking that that is the most important audience that you have. Think about the entire audience on Pinterest. All pinners on Pinterest is potential people who could come across your content. How do you get that in front of them? You get it in front of them by writing really great keywords in your board title and your board description, and writing really great pin descriptions, right? You want to grow your overall audience and overall engagement, not just your follower count. And how you do that is through all of these best practices. So you guys probably can't see these super clearly, but you can at least tell that the pin on the right has a much longer pin description, the one on the left doesn't. What you probably can't see is the pin on the right had close to 2,500 repins, which is a lot, and the pin on the left only had 60. So what do you think made that difference? There are two very similar gray slouchy sweaters, and the only difference is the more helpful pin description. Pin descriptions really matter in getting higher engagement on your content. The reason why is, first of all, that gray slouchy sweater is just showing up in a lot of search results, right? Not only is she describing the slouchy sweater, she's actually putting in other keywords like pale blue jeans, casual look is great, dark skinny jeans, black high heels. She's painted a whole picture in addition to writing great keywords of how somebody might be able to pull off that gray slouchy sweater, which is really important. Again, people are coming to Pinterest for actionable ideas. They don't just want to see a sweater. Maybe it catches their eye, maybe there doesn't. That pin description helps get them over the edge of cute to, oh, I can actually do that. That's worth repinning, that's worth saving. I should put that on my outfits board as an idea that's worth remembering. So, that was the first example, but here are all the best practices on how to make your pins and your content more engaging. Number 1 is detailed descriptions. 2 is step-by-step instructions and how-tos, and then lists, text overlays, and tasteful branding. So this Ziploc pin is pretty crazy. It actually has all of the best practices all in one. You don't have to do that, but it just shows how powerful they can be. That pin was repinned about 5,500 times, which is pretty insane. And what they're doing is, in that pin description, not just writing the ingredients of the turkey chili, but they're also explaining how it's so easy. It goes right from the stovetop into the oven. Again, all those ingredients are meant to surface that turkey chili pin for all those people who search turkey chili, or all those people who search for, easy recipe and homemade cornbread. Those are the words that get that piece of content in front of lots of eyeballs, and then the positive sentiment and the helpfulness helps all those eyeballs realize, that's not something over the top or aspirational, that's something that I can do really easily and is worth saving. So here are more examples of detailed descriptions. Again, you don't have to kill yourself. Some of these are a little bit longer, but my advice is always just, if you can write a single sentence that hits a couple of the major keywords and then provides kind of an actionable tip of how somebody might bring this idea, product, tutorial, whatever it is, into reality, into their own lives, it'll do you a world of good. We studied tens of thousands of